I'm Jill Mitchell. I teach accounting at Northern Virginia Community College, and I was a member of the limited field trial. And so I'm excited just to show you some of the features that I implemented in my Wiley Plus Next Generation course, and to go into a little more detail from what Laura showed you just now. So I think that Wiley Plus Next Generation is kind of the sweet spot between the interaction of students and instructors. And whenever I am evaluating an online learning system, the first thing I look at is, what is the student experience? And then if there are benefits to me as the instructor, maybe save some time and be more efficient, then that's just kind of the icing on the cake, right? But it's always about that student experience. And I think what you've seen already, and what I'll show you, is that the next generation of Wiley Plus really is that sweet spot of instructor flexibility, creativity, and an extremely engaging experience for the students, and to make all kind of packaged up in this really clean and modern interface that is useful for, again, mostly the students, but us as an instructor as well. So 3 things that I would just want to show you in my course that I would like to highlight, and that's the optimal learning path, which we briefly saw, the calendar, and then the assignment builder. And so there's a lot more. Obviously, I could show you, spend a couple hours showing you everything that I did, but I think those are the 3 key areas that I think you're going to see the biggest difference, especially from the previous Wiley Plus platform, and that was one of our questions that we had earlier. So, and all of this is based on the importance of accessibility and mobility, and which Laura also touched on. So creating this optimal learning path. So one of the things the new Wiley Plus Next Generation will show us is it really creates, gives us the opportunity to create a perfect balance. And so when we're looking at this, I like to also support every kind of decision that I make when I'm designing a course on research and evidence and theory. So I want to talk a little bit about discovery, learning, and program control, and then I'll show you our customizable modules and then the prerequisites and requirements. So as Wiley Plus users, we know that one of the best benefits of Wiley Plus and Wiley is the resources, right? And so we really appreciate not just the content in terms of a textbook, but all of the additional videos and animations and interactive tutorials. So many wonderful resources. But before, where students might have been overwhelmed, right? That one page, read, study, and practice. And there's actually research that states that that can actually impede their learning, so that if they're having to choose an instructional path, that's going to create this cognitive overload, and then they get frustrated and lose motivation. And so there is a lot of research that says that a guided approach to learning is beneficial. That's not to say that, I don't believe in a constructivist learning environment or anything like that, but I think in certain learning environments, giving that structure is important. And so there's this idea of program control and learner control. So where we want to give the students more control, we're going to see that in courses where maybe the topics aren't interdependent, maybe it's more advanced, learners have prior knowledge, the instructional elements are there kind of as the default learning path. So we would use more learner control in maybe our more advanced courses. I primarily teach introductory courses, and so therefore I'm going to give more control to the program, less control to the student, at least early on in the course. So in my classes, right, learners are novices. My content is very linear, and I'm sure a lot of you are are teaching content that you can't be successful in chapter 3 until you've mastered chapter 2. And so there are program controls in place in the new Wiley Plus that we can help our students and really guide them along. And so that's the beauty of Next Generation of Wiley Plus, is it gives us this balance, and we can control that. And I'll say early on in my course, a lot of program control. Later on, I want my students to have that control and be more independent thinkers. And hopefully they've kind of learned in the early parts of the course how to learn, right? Like what resources are best for them to use. So this is my homepage when my students first enter my course, and I have a nice announcement at the top. And then they'll see the Welcome to Wiley, Your Wiley course module. And so they will work through those first, and you'll see that it's grayed out, so it might actually be hard to see because I've set prerequisites and requirements so that the students have to work through them, that linear content, right? So these modules come automatically included in my course, but then I've added my own items within the module. So I've added 2 assignments actually, an introductions discussion board, and then also a field trip, which is a discussion board that I have my students take, watching videos and answering questions. And so there's that idea that Laura was mentioning of us being able to go in and customize it. And so I'm able to do that very easily right away, in the beginning. I also can add my own modules. So these are career resources that I like to share with my students. And so these are just links that I want my students to look at. And I can move them, I can put them, and I always keep them at the top because I want them to, these are professional organizations within our accounting industry, things that I want them to see. And so I make that available to them right at the beginning. So I mentioned the prerequisites and requirements. So that you'll see that, like I said, it's grayed out. And then when we get to the second module or third module here for chapter 1, it actually states that I have prerequisites. So they have to complete the Welcome to Your Wiley course before those are even available to them. So I'm really forcing them in the beginning, at least, to work through them in order. Okay, so if this is just once they're within the module, if they try to click on the field trip before doing their class introduction, they get this message. This is, you need to go back and work in order. Okay, not get ahead. Okay, so go back. Okay, so this is the assignment. This is my field trip assignment that they have to do. Then that becomes now available once they've submitted their introduction discussion board. Okay, so this is, again, the instructor has the ability to create their own learning path. You'll see here that, again, I've added in my first chapter, Introduction to Financial Statements, I have pulled from the body of resources from Wiley content, and I like my students, before they start a chapter, to watch the author's overview video. So that I pulled that and I was able to place that first. So the students watch that first. Then they go through their content of the textbook and by each learning objective. And then I want them to watch the interactive tutorial. So again, another piece of Wiley content that I've pulled in and have told them to go in this order, right? Advise them in that order. And then I have my own content, my slides and the video that I have them watch. And then I ask them to do their homework. And then I also have them doing adaptive practice as an optional assignment. So that's actually open for them at any time. Now you'll see on the homework, it had a minimum score requirement. So this is what the screen looks like when I'm editing my module, so I can create those prerequisites and requirements. And so for homework for chapter 1, obviously a very important chapter in our course, I want them to get at least 16 out of 20 points before they move on. Okay, so they have to meet that minimum in order to, and that's, and I will say my students in the limited field trial were actually very successful, and they didn't complain about this. Actually, I was surprised that they didn't. So, so yeah, so a lot of quality resources, right, that Wiley provides to us, but then we can customize that as much or as little as we want. So I thought that was very helpful for me in kind of creating an optimal learning path for my students. So Laura showed us the calendar. 3 things I want to show you: creating events, downloading the iCal, and then adjusting the assignment. So this is back on the home page, and you'll see on the side there that they're always being reminded about what's coming up. So really help them keep track of what's coming. And then when we get to the calendar, there are several views that we can use. So the agenda view is on the left side, and then the full month view. And as Laura showed, we can move our due dates around. Another feature that we can do is we can create our own events. And so I've actually added events for my class. So to remind them, class is Monday night at 6 p.m. And then, and I can share that with them. And then again, teaching them those organizational skills, because they can download that into their phone, and then they're reminded of that. I've also added when they have exams and things like that. So I'm really creating that. And I was just thinking about this yesterday. I'm probably not going to set up my calendar in a spreadsheet anymore. I'm just going to go right into this calendar and then use that as my syllabus, because they can just download to their to their phones, to their devices, and you could even just easily insert that into the calendar into a syllabus, just again saving some time there. And if you, like we were showing it to move assignments around, Laura was demonstrating this, but it's as easy as just clicking and dragging. And then you can edit from right there. So once you get all of your assignments in the calendar, I mean, that's really such a time saver for us. That's the instructor benefit. But then for the students, really helping teach them those organizational and time management skills where they can see all of their requirements. And then lastly, just looking quickly at the assignment builder, just want to show you a few settings that I used, the textbook, and just a shot of the grade book. So when you're setting an assignment, you can actually assign to an individual student or a group of students or certain classes. And so I know at my school, we have a lot of students with accommodations. And so I'm actually having to go in and create those accommodations. And that's very easily done within the assignment builder and when we're setting those assignment due dates. So I can just easily assign it to that one individual or two individual students that need the extended time or an extended due date. The students can access the assignments via their assignments tab on the side or through those learning modules. So if they want to just see everything that I have to do in this course, it's very easy for them to see that as well. So that's a nice feature. Okay, and then again, when you're going in, I have lots of prerequisites in those first courses. And so again, it'll inform the student of which prerequisites they need to complete before moving on. Okay. And then I just wanted to show you quickly a look at the grade book. It's hard to see on the screen there, but you can see some of the cells are in red. So again, just a quick visual of my students that are not performing very well that I might need to reach out to, but I wanted you to just be able to see what that gradebook screen looks like. Very useful. Again, you can download it to an Excel file and work directly from there. So finally, to just wrap up two things, accessibility, which Laura mentioned, so important, obviously, for all of us. And so the accessibility audit flags that were really helpful for me in the course. So when I created, for example, in this discussion board, if I put in an image, right? So all of our images have to have image descriptions, right? And so if I didn't, when I go to my accessibility checker, this little guy here in the circle, it would have said, this is not accessible. Here's how to fix it. So not only do they tell you it's not accessible, but it tells you how to correct it. So that's something, if you haven't had experience in designing with accessibility in mind, that can be very beneficial. Here, this was fine. I got a nice balloon that told me, good job. So, okay. And of course, everything right today needs to be mobile, and we need to have it wherever we go. And so some of the really beneficial features, I think, on the student side, as Laura mentioned, so many of our students don't have all they have is an iPad or a tablet or even just a phone. And so they can access everything. The formatting is very clear for them, utilizing the calendar, receiving those notifications as I've been kind of updating a few things because my course has ended already for the semester, but it was the first 8 week. I'm still teaching. The limited field trial was the first 8 week. But I've been getting all of these notifications on my phone from Wiley Plus saying, oh, your students aren't doing their work because I've been creating due dates in there. So that's been really good and bad. You can adjust that, right? But it's a beneficial feature. And again, editing those due dates, right? I mean, gosh, when you get that email that you need to change it and then you have to think, oh, I got to go sit down. Such a beneficial feature that I can do that so quickly from my phone, and my students aren't waiting anymore. So those are the features that I think made this really special for me and a special experience. And I'm happy to later talk with anyone that has any questions about my experience and what was really beneficial mostly from the student perspective. And again, that's what I think is most important. And if it makes our lives easier as an instructor, well, then that's just a little nice bonus. Yeah. All right. Thank you.